Hello and welcome to My Learning Train Station. I'm Sonia Relia, an early years educator, somebody who's been researching with activity based learning since 1989. Today, the video that I'm shooting is specifically for parents. It's to introduce you to the National Curriculum Framework for Foundation Stage, which was introduced in 2022. And it was 1 year before the National Curriculum Framework for School Education was introduced. So it is really important, and that's the kind of importance that the system is today giving the foundation stage. It also says that unless the community comes together, that means the parents, the extended family, the environment, the neighborhood comes together, we cannot have a seamless change and transition of school to home and home to school. So, very quickly, I'm going to help you to understand what the National Curriculum Framework for Foundation Stage is asking schools to do. And your support is going to make such a difference to the speed of the change. So let's get started. This is the National Curriculum Framework document, and I have tried to simplify it by putting it up into a small, train, which can actually cover all the points that will help you to just have a reference point when the teachers are actually introducing a new system for your children. So, holistic learning is a process, starting with the Panchkosha Vikas, which says it has different koshas. The Annamaya kosha, which is the physical development of the children, also come from the word food, an. So, first step is healthy food for a healthy body. So, please try to see that they eat fresh foods and they have certain timing and avoid digital devices when they are eating. The next one is the Pranamaya Kosh, which talks about the breathing and the good health of the internal organs. After these two, you talk about the Manamaya Kosh, because if you're healthy, if you're strong, automatically the emotions, the mind becomes stronger, and that's another very important connect to have. Then comes the Vijnanamaya Kosh, or the cognitive development. That's the learning part of it. Saying that if little children are, they are healthy, they are emotionally sound, then the learning development is so much better. And then comes the Anandmaya Kosh, or the spiritual development, the good habits, the sharing, the just the whole aura of what the children have learned. The second step to understand is a concept called the Panchari, which is the learning process, which says schools have to actually take care of five very important things: introduction, both conceptual understanding, and it cannot always come out of notebooks and writing. It will come from experiences and activities which may not be in notebooks and worksheets. So you will have to be ready for that. If there is nothing in the workbook or written work, it doesn't mean that nothing is happening in school. So there's a lot of work happening for conceptual understanding. And then comes the abhyas. This is the time when parents can actually participate, understand better, and carry that little practice of what is happening into this from in the school to the homes as well. Use simple things around the house. There will be suggestions that will come to you. Please use those. Spend a little time with the children so that the practice can be extended. And then comes the prayog, or the application, perfect for actually applying it in their day to day life, whatever they've learned. And very importantly, the prasar, or the expansion, where children can not only talk about but can apply what they have learned. So look at the kind of expanse that they're looking at. And now, to when we build a whole curriculum, and when your school is working on a curriculum, they are looking at the different domains of development. This is what actually reflects a whole lot of what the national curriculum is asking us to do. So, the social emotional domain, the physical domain, the language and literacy domain, the cognitive domain, the aesthetic and cultural development, which talks very importantly about the EVS and art integration. So, the environmental awareness is a very important part of the children's development, and it must be extended into the local environment as well. And then positive learning habits. Another very important thing for parents to know is look at the enormity of what the teachers and curriculum is planning for your children. It's planning 13 curriculum goals, understanding them, 68 competencies, then each competency is further divided into learning outcomes for each level. That is, the competency will remain the same. But what outcome we expect from a 3-year old, 4-year old, 5-year old, 6-year old, and 7-year old will be different in that competency. And that's the reason why we don't want schools to hurry the children. And then self assessment. So children have to learn how to assess whether they have enjoyed, whether they have grasped the activity, and so on and so forth. Also encouraging peer assessment, and we are going to include you, dear parents, and have parent assessment where you very simply actually be able to look at it and say that what is it that the child used to learn. It could be books, newspapers, experiences, home things, a little bit of the digital, or so many other experiences of the children. And then what they also, teachers have to also put together is different kinds of working environment. So individual, pair working, small group working, team working, and circle time. The circle time is a beautiful concept that can also be done at home without digital devices, with eye contact, with some conversations and interactions for children to learn. Another very important part of what you all have to understand as the parent community is that there are different learning levels that have been suggested. Now, when we say how do we mark, now they're not going to be marks, they're not going to be grades. So, how are we going to actually understand if our children are learning or not? Well, a progress card, which is a holistic progress card, is not an end unto itself. It's a journey that your school and teachers are taking your children through, and they're observing, depending on the learning outcomes. If the child is a beginner, that means the child needs more nurturing and care and needs a little support, more support from the teachers and parents. And it's just about showing the first indications of the learning outcomes mentioned. A progressing child is a child who can take little lesser support than the beginner and is able to show more indications of learning. A proficient child, a child who's marked as proficient, is a child who's showing the learning indicators and works with some basic level of support from the adult. It could be the teacher or the parents. And then you have the advanced learner. These children are self sufficient children. They need minimal support. They show all signs of learning outcomes for proficient children, and they show a few signs of learning outcomes suggested for the next level. Therefore, a deep understanding of the community of parents is so important if we want this change to actually become a part of our national education system. I shot this video so that you can just look at it and you can understand the enormity of what the teachers, schools, curriculums, people like us who are designing work for them are doing. And we really, really want all of us to come together and support this change. So, from the tracks of My Learning Train, all the best, and let's all keep making this change happen together.